Did you catch the latest explosive story coming from Vice Canada? I'm not talking about the alleged cocaine trafficking ring that was operating within their newsroom, but this time a super huge 8-month investigation into, quote, the birth of Canada's armed anti-Islamic patriot group. Apparently, for the last 8 months, Vice reporter and superb downtown Toronto hipster Mac Lamoureux infiltrated and embedded himself into the inner workings of a far-right extremist group operating in Alberta called the 3%ers. Now, I can only imagine the bravery needed for this. And by infiltrated and embedded, I mean he met their leader once in a Denny's in Calgary, joined their closed Facebook group, and went to one public event to get photos. Vice journalism, folks. It doesn't get much more hard-hitting than that. But the story is almost too predictable these days. The mainstream media are obsessed with painting a picture that says that it's so-called far-right extremist groups or white nationalist groups that pose the biggest threat to our society, not, say, radical Islamic terror, jihadism, Islamism, or even mentally deranged killers like Vincent Lee. The format of the article is pretty simple. Show some of the inflammatory posts by the group in their private Facebook page where some members posted pictures of their firearm collections. Get a couple of quotes from your meeting with the leader at Denny's and then go consult 3 or 4 so-called experts on far-right extremism and have them explain how dangerous and scary this group is. You know, it's really remarkable that so many academics across Canada specialize in far-right extremism, despite the numbers of these groups being absolutely minuscule. In fact, the article quotes 3 different PhDs or PhD candidates from 3 different universities across the country, all who specialize in studying far-right extremism in Canada. So just for a minute, ask yourself, do you think there is a single university professor or PhD candidate in the country who studies Islamic extremism or far-left extremism like Antifa? I bet not. But I also bet that these 3 are only 3 of dozens who study far-right extremism and thus teach that to their students too. But back to Vice. As I mentioned, the author is a former CBCer named Mac Lamoureux, who is majorly obsessed with us at The Rebel, which of course led to a little jab at us in the piece suggesting that it's sites like The Rebel that contribute to the rise of these far-right groups. While that assertion is absolutely bullshit, I don't blame media party members like Mac for their jealousy because The Rebel is the fastest growing media company in Canada right now. Meanwhile, Vice is languishing in the failure of their recent TV channel launch. Noteworthy to mention, Vice concedes in their article that the active group of 3%ers are around 150 active members and just about 1,600 in their private Facebook group. That's not a lot. It's pretty darn fringe if you ask me. Yet when it comes to the real and present threat of Islamic extremism and jihadism, how does Vice Canada cover that? Well, they don't really cover it at all. Vice Canada did have this one interview with a Somali-Canadian jihadist fighting with ISIS in Iraq. Ooh, so edgy.
How many foreign fighters are in Iraq right now fighting for ISIS?
Ooh, upwards of 10, 15,000.
And that led to Vice actually fighting with the RCMP about handing over the chat logs with this jihadist who is now accused of terrorist crimes. So I gotta ask, would they put up the same fight if the RCMP asked for info on this 3%ers group that they profiled? Look, as I said, the media party loves to tell us all about the threat of far-right extremism in Canada. From Vice to the Toronto Star, the coverage is consistent. But according to CSIS, the threat is actually non-existent. According to a 2014 bulletin from the agency, quote, right-wing extremism has not been as significant a problem in Canada in recent years. Those who hold such extremist views have tended to be isolated and ineffective figures, unquote. That was then followed up by a January 2017 article in the National Post that quoted former National Security Advisor Richard Fadden after the Quebec mosque shooting discussing the threat of far-right extremist groups. Quote, I don't think we saw a great deal of evidence, facts that suggested they were going to be a significant problem in terms of violence, unquote. So there you have it, folks. Vice Canada once again creating the news instead of reporting it. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson. Thanks for watching. Media party members love to put out this far-right extremist threat, but you can count on the Rebel to dispel any of these ridiculous articles. Keep it locked to our YouTube channels.